Let's talk about some series that have more bad entries than good ones. Star Wars definitely comes to mind. Indiana Jones, that isn't far off. If we're talking video games, maybe Sonic. But another one is Dragon Age. There's been 3 major entries in the Dragon Age series, and only one of them is actually good in my opinion. Dragon Age Origins, if you couldn't have guessed. Origins itself, pretty good RPG. It was released nearly 15 years ago now. We then got Dragon Age 2, utterly rushed by EA the publisher. It was a mess. And then you had Inquisition, which felt more like an MMO than a single-player RPG, full of fetch quests. It was absolutely that period where open-world games were starting to get really bloated, and that describes Inquisition quite well. But I bring all this up because Dragon Age Dreadwolf, Dragon Age 4, the next one that is supposedly coming in the next little while, there has been a new trailer released for it, as well as information on when it's going to be released and when we're going to get a real big reveal. This series to me is fairly pathetic. I understand that in media, if something goes on too long, it eventually goes downhill. That just always happens. But with Dragon Age, they barely got a start. If you look at Origins, which it released ages ago, again, 15 or so years ago, that's how long we're talking, Origins could have been Baldur's Gate 3. BioWare were known for the original Baldur's Gate games, 1 and 2. It's what put them on the map. Sprawling RPGs, incredible role-playing games that have stood the test of time. BioWare moved on from the series, and after Knights of the Old Republic, you get to sort of 2006 onwards. That's when BioWare wanted to make their own IPs. So they made Dragon Age Origins, which was a spiritual successor to Baldur's Gate. It could have been the 3rd Baldur's Gate game, and essentially it is in some ways. It is the same developer, doing the same sorts of things. But if we're honest, even if you're nostalgic for Origins, it's nothing on the real Baldur's Gate 3 that we got. So maybe we dodged a bullet there, maybe that was for the best. I like Origins. I think in that period, sort of 2009-ish, that was a really dark period for role-playing games. If you think 3 or 4 years ago was bad, when we had the botched launch of Cyberpunk, maybe a few other games coming out, that was nothing on 2006 to 2012, that sort of era. It was when consoles really took off. It was all about action games. It was all about, there was a BioWare developer who quoted it.
And that's when you press a button, something awesome has to happen. So button awesome.
It was just that era of appealing to the lowest common denominator. Everything was dumbed down. We really didn't get indie games to the extent that we do now. So you had to take what you were given. And BioWare were one of the few developers still making RPGs. So no matter how downhill they've gotten with Anthem and Mass Effect Andromeda, I appreciate what they did in the past. I have zero faith in Dragon Age Dreadwolf. I think it's going to be a terrible game. Bad management decisions. It started out as a live service. They tried to pivot when they realized that live service was not a guaranteed success. They totally failed with Anthem, and even when they try and make a single-player game, like with Andromeda, they can't even get that right. They've got no skills. Anyone good at the studio is basically gone, and the directors of games, so I'll go into that in a little bit, they seem to be incompetent as well. So this looks like a disaster. If we're going to get good RPGs, it is going to be from other devs. And we'll start off by watching this trailer. It was released partly because it's Dragon Age Day today. When I heard that, I just thought crickets. I thought a tumbleweed rolling across the street. Who gives a shit about Dragon Age Day? I didn't even know that was a thing. But let's watch this to start with. This is their big announcement for 2023.
We fight for everyone. And
they did say a mix of gameplay and cinematics. Let's see what the gameplay is.
we always will. The crows rule Antiva.
Glory to the risen gods. They've come to deliver this world.
So some different areas that they list in there.
Dreadwolves don't hide in our castle. I won't ask good soldiers to turn tail and run.
Okay, we're already coming to the end, it looks like. Another meaty piece of content from BioWare. A bit like their Mass Effect reveal the other day that some people probably don't even know about because there was barely anything in it. There's barely anything here as well. It seems like some hints on areas that'll be in the game, but I'll tell you what, I don't want to see anything to do with an open world from BioWare. It is not their strength, even when they're getting things right. If you go back to their older games, Baldur's Gate 2, Knights of the Old Republic, Mass Effect, those games were at their best when it was focused on hub worlds, creating good locations with good quests, characters, a bit of exploration, but not too much. When they try and put too much in there like Inquisition, it just turns into something like an MMO. It's not very creative. So if they're going to do this, please make sure those different locations that you showed, they are hub world based, and you select from maybe a world map, something of that nature. It doesn't sound great because if we look at some articles that have been written about this reveal, again, talk that it was going to come out in 2024, but most of the outlets are now saying it's likely that this will get a 2025 release. Very odd, too, that it was released the same day as the Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer. I know it's Dragon Age Day, but I don't even know what these days mean. There's a Mass Effect Day as well. Maybe it made sense when these were Juggernaut IPs, but now that they're at best B-list properties, gamers are looking at other titles like Baldur's Gate, Cyberpunk, The Witcher. These RPGs have absolutely overtaken them. You don't need to have a specific day of the year for your middling role-playing game series. No one cares. Let's have a look at the director of this game. I was looking this up earlier, and I found this person, Corinne Bush. They are a trans woman with she, her pronouns in the old Twitter bio. Describe themselves as queerosexual gendermancer. Right then. Okay, so this person is directing the game director of Dragon Age Dreadwolf. And I guess you've got to ask yourself, this person is in charge, they're at the helm. Do you think the game's gonna be good? I'll let you answer the question. If we have a look at their experience, many years at BioWare and Electronic Arts, and I do find it interesting that there's a little bit of a mention of their time at BioWare here, but all their experience is classified as working at Electronic Arts. I always hear about how BioWare basically doesn't exist anymore. It's just a marketing name that they use because of its history, and it's basically just a branch of EA, and this just further proves that to me, that no one who even works there sees themselves as working at BioWare. They see themselves as working at EA. Their game experience seems to basically just be at EA, at BioWare, and that's literally it. They haven't worked anywhere else. So they've basically got tunnel vision. They don't know anything outside of BioWare, let's say. And if we have a look at the years, it is interesting because the years that they were actually in charge of anything, lead designer and onwards, it basically lines up when BioWare turned to shit. Everything they released from pretty much 2012 onwards has been a total fail. Anthem, again, Andromeda, well, there's some other games in there, Mass Effect 3, I thought that was pretty average, to be honest. So pretty much everything they've done in their time here has been awful, but look at all these different promotions that they've gotten here. Talk about failing upwards, and I wonder why that is. I don't have to say it, but let's connect the dots, shall we? If we have a look at what the community thinks about all of this, you would think there are all these Dragon Age fans out there who are hyped for the game. This is going to sell gangbusters, right? All of these committed fans of the cause. Apparently not, because if we go to different gaming communities, we have a look what people are saying. This person says, BioWare just want to remind people they exist and are working on a game. Next year, they will release another. I don't think so, because it sounds like Dragon Age Dreadwolf isn't coming till 2025. It's going to be delayed further, and I'm surprised that EA are even allowing it. This is their last chance. We keep hearing about a Mass Effect 5. That is not going to happen if this game bombs. EA, they must have their finger over the kill switch. They've killed lots of studios over the years. If anyone remembers Westwood, they were one of my favorites. They made some great strategy games, Command and Conquer, many others. They up and killed them after purchasing them. EA did purchase BioWare many years ago, and if anything, they've probably gotten fair treatment because they still haven't been shut down, even after Anthem, which was a total sham. That wasn't even EA meddling with the studio. That was just BioWare's own incompetence, and they still didn't get shut down. So if this is bad, bad. They've been allowed to make a story-based game, supposedly. Dreadwolf did start as a live service, but they re-pivoted after they realized they weren't going to make any money from something that was all online, all multiplayer. So they've gone back to their bread and butter, supposedly, story-based game. If they can't make this work, they have no reason to exist. They're not good at anything. There are other studios now making RPGs. They don't control the market. They need to raise the bar, lift the standard to catch up to these other role-playing game developers like Larian, like From Software. If they're going to compete, they can't do it. No one good works there anymore. If we look at another one, this is a totally different gaming community, but a similar story. This person says about the reveal. So at this point, is BioWare just allergic to actually showing their games? It's been years and years of them teasing this in Mass Effect with no real details outside of the Vegas stuff. I really just wish they would wait until they're actually ready to show something. Well, you know what? With Anthem, they twiddled their thumbs. They pretended there was a game in development, and then you found out behind the scenes they weren't even working on the game. They were just coming up with ideas, scrapping them, and when they were forced to show something, when they had to show EA that they weren't just flushing their money down the toilet in supporting this studio, they cobbled something together at the last minute. The self-proclaimed BioWare magic, that was supposedly going to save it. Yeah, that magic only works if there's magical people working at the studio who are good at their job, and that isn't the case anymore. Now, I will say that I hope I'm wrong. I hope somehow, by some miracle, the game turns out to be good, because I don't like to see a mainstream RPG release utterly bomb, because that's just not good for the industry and RPGs as a whole. If other publishers see a supposed big series bomb like that, it may make them think, oh, I don't know if we want to greenlight more RPGs from our teams. Look what happened to Dragon Age. I hope that wouldn't happen given how successful Baldur's Gate 3 was. I hope the message is, if Dreadwolf releases, it's a total dud, no one buys it, that the message to the industry is, we're not going to pay for crap anymore. You've got to produce quality. If we're going to part with our money, we need a good experience, and I don't think BioWare are cut out for it. I'll keep an eye on it. I liked Origins. If they could ever produce something like that again, I'd have some interest, but I think you'd have to be on some serious copium to think that's ever going to happen. For now, I see BioWare as a laughingstock. All I'm going to do is clown on them. So thanks so much for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.